Hi, I'm Jenna Cummings, an elementary media arts educator, passionate about helping classroom teachers bring creativity and media literacy into everyday lessons. Today, we're diving into the 6 essential elements of media arts and exploring hands-on ways to use Canva, Kleki, Sumo Paint, and Soundtrap in your classroom. You don't need to be an expert in tech or art. This session is about practical, doable ways to integrate media arts into your instruction to deepen student learning and expression. Here's what we'll cover: the 6 media arts elements, how to use Canva for layout, animation, and sound integration, basic drawing with Kleki and Sumo Paint focusing on symmetry, sound creation and layering with Soundtrap, strategies for integrating media arts into core subjects, and how to use the But what is media arts exactly? Media arts is the creative process of using tools like images, sound, motion, and technology to tell stories, share ideas, and express meaning. It blends visual, audio, and digital elements to help students communicate, reflect, and connect with the world around them. It's about communication with intention, teaching students to consider how image, sound, time, space, and movement work together. This opens doors for students to express themselves and understand the media-saturated world around them critically. Before we dive into the elements of media arts, let's review the 5 artistic processes from your handout on page 1. Create, brainstorming and exploring ideas. Produce, planning, rehearsing, and making the actual media. Present, sharing with an audience. Respond, reflecting and evaluating. And connect, making meaning and relating to self or culture. Keep in mind that especially when you're starting out, you do not need to use all of these processes at once. Using 1 or 2 to get your feet wet at first is just fine. Here are the 6 essential elements that form the foundation of media arts projects. We'll dive deeper into each one of them. Composition, time, space, sound, movement, and lighting. Each shapes how media communicates and engages its audience. Before we get started, it's helpful to understand the basics of something called the timeline in tools like Soundtrap Audio Editor or Canva Video. The timeline is a visual representation of time in your project, whether you're working on a song, podcast, or video. As the project plays, a vertical line called the playhead moves from left to right, showing you exactly where you are at in the project. Each piece of audio or video on the timeline appears as a visual chunk. These chunks represent segments of time. A smaller chunk might represent just a few seconds, while a larger chunk could span 15 seconds or more. This helps you see at a glance how your project is organized and how long each part is. Now let's dive into each element. Composition. Composition is about arranging visual and auditory elements to create a balanced and engaging media artwork. Visual concepts include framing, angles, layering, and the rule of thirds. Auditory elements include balancing music, dialogue, and sound effects. In Canva, you can teach students how to center titles and images for clarity, layer components like text, shapes, and icons, and use size and spacing to guide the viewer's eye. For example, in Canva, start by showing how the position button and alignment guides help the artist create a balanced composition on the slide. Time. Time refers to the pacing, sequencing, and duration within media. Fast motion, slow motion, looping, and timing control the narrative, flow, and impact. In Canva, you can use slide timing to control pace and length of the project. In Soundtrap, students can loop sound effects or adjust the timing of audio clips. Here's a practical classroom idea. Have students create a short animated slideshow in Canva that explains a science process, controlling timing to emphasize each step. Space. Space uses depth, perspective, and framing to create a sense of environment. This includes overlapping objects, foreground-background distinction, and zoom to create visual interest. Use Canva's alignment and positioning tools to move elements forward or backward. You can encourage students to experiment with varying sizes of objects to create a sense of space. An example project would be having students create a visual storybook page where they arrange characters and objects to create a scene. Sound, one of my favorites. Sound enhances storytelling and mood. It includes audio elements like dialogue, music, sound effects, and yes, even silence. An example would be to have students use Canva to add sound effects or voiceover to a read-aloud book, creating a richer multimedia experience.
Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come.
In Soundtrap, this includes looping, layering, recording, and timing. You can encourage students to layer sounds like background music with voice and experiment with silence for effect. A practical classroom idea would be to record a podcast-style book or character interview using Soundtrap. Movement. Movement refers to the way objects, subjects, and the camera shift within a media piece. This includes animation, transitions, camera angles, and motion blur to guide attention and meaning. An example would be to use Canva's slide transitions and animation effects where students create movement between ideas. In Canva, you can teach simple transitions like fade, zoom, or slide to move between images, or experiment with moving elements on the page to direct focus. An example project would be to have students animate their name and a fun fact using simple entrance animations. Lighting. Lighting refers to the use of light and shadows to create mood and focus attention. This includes backlighting, contrast, soft lighting, and color filters to create different emotional effects. In Canva, students can layer semi-transparent images to simulate lighting effects, or use Canva's photo filters and adjustment sliders to change brightness and contrast. Introduce the concept of mood through lighting choices. One project idea could be to have students create two versions of the same image, one bright and cheerful, and one dark and mysterious to explore mood. Let's dive deeper into Canva, a fantastic and free tool that supports many media arts techniques. When you first log into Canva, most media arts projects are going to use video, so go ahead and click on video. To create a layout, you can either use the templates provided, or you can create your own clicking on elements. To create an animation, first add an element and click on Animate. You can choose from any of the animations here or create your own. Adding audio can be a great way to enhance your project. To do this, click on Uploads, Upload Files, and then select the audio file you'd like. Once it uploads, go ahead and click on the file and it will be added to your project. You can then drag it around in your timeline wherever you'd like it. Now, let's explore Kleki and Sumo Paint, two fantastic digital drawing tools. Kleki.com can be used for any painting and drawing project. My favorite tool to use by far is the smudge tool. Start by getting some color on your page. After that, click on the finger smudge tool. I call it the finger paint tool. This is going to allow you to mix and smudge your colors. It is by far a student favorite. Sumo Paint is a great website to use when you're teaching lessons about symmetry. To create a symmetrical drawing, first log into paint.sumo.app and click Create. Then click on the icon on the right and click on this icon again. This is the symmetry icon. You can increase the number of symmetry points or decrease the number of symmetry points. Everything you do now is going to be multiplied by the number of symmetry points. Students love this and really grasp the concept of symmetry using this application. Our final tool we'll explore is called Soundtrap. Soundtrap is an accessible audio recording and editing tool. Students can create podcasts, audio stories, or music. When you first log into Soundtrap, click Enter Studio. Click Podcast, and then Add New Track, Voice and Mic, and then click Record to start recording. Students can give a book report, interview characters, or record a reader's theater. They can then click on the music notes to add loops for background music. And those are the basics of Soundtrap. Let's put this all together using real classroom ideas. In ELA, students can create podcast book talks using Soundtrap. In science, you can have students animate processes using slideshows in Canva. In social studies, students can create digital posters in Kleki or Sumo Paint. In math, students can create symmetry designs using Sumo Paint. Or they could create a how-to presentation in Canva. Remember to start small. Use your handout's lesson planning grid to plan your first activity. Using the handout effectively. Your handout includes the 6 media arts elements, the artistic processes, a lesson planning grid for brainstorming, reflection prompts and exit tickets, and quick start project ideas. Use this as a living document. Refer back to it to track your integration process and student reflections. Today we explored the 6 elements of media arts, how to use Canva for layout, animation, and sound integration, basic drawing with Kleki and Sumo Paint, sound creation and layering with Soundtrap, strategies for integrating media arts into core subjects, and how to use your PD handout to plan and reflect. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. Just start small and build over time. Thank you so much for joining me on this media arts journey. If you want to connect, ask questions, or share your classroom success, feel free to email me at jcummings@musd20.org. I look forward to hearing about your creative adventures. Bye!